Hi everybody and welcome to my sewing studio. This is where the magic happens, and I just wanted to show you the four main sewing machines that I use because I want to talk to you about sewing machines and how you don't have to spend a lot of money on a sewing machine. I have four main ones that I use. I've also got a tiny little mini one which you can't see in here, and I also have a spare for my favourite machine. This is my John Lewis JL110. This is a special edition because it comes in a different colour. This is the one that I use most often for my makes in my Etsy shop. Okay, and I bought that about 7 years ago. I absolutely love it. Whenever I'm shooting videos to do with sewing, this is the one that I use. You'll have seen me do a walkthrough, threading it, winding a bobbin on, putting the bobbin in, all of that on this machine. I absolutely love it. I would totally recommend it if you're new to sewing and you want a basic machine, and have a look at those videos. It's very light, it's not very heavy at all, it's pretty light. And I really like it just because it's so simple. I don't think that you need to have a massively big fancy machine unless you want to do lots of complicated stitches, a lot of embroidery. This works for me just fine. I also have two second-hand machines, and I would say that if you're just looking for a machine and you don't want to spend a lot of money on it. This one, when I bought it, was about £110. They're now £130. They have brought out a slightly updated version, the GL220. I'm going to investigate that because it's not that much more expensive. I think it's 180, and it has a few more stitches on it, but it's still very much the same basic machine. So I love John Lewis sewing machine, so I'll investigate that. This is a second-hand machine. This is a second-hand machine. This one I inherited from my mum, who inherited it from my aunt, her brother's wife, who was American. When they emigrated back from Scotland back to America in 1984, she left this with us. I've had it serviced. It weighs quite a lot. You'll find older machines are much heavier because they're made of metal. The great thing about that is they don't shift a lot. But I will say that I got rid of a really nice Singer sewing machine because I didn't have anywhere to sit it, and I kept having to shift it around a lot. So if you have issues with lower back and carrying heavy things, and you don't actually have anywhere to put it, sometimes metal sewing machines aren't a great solution. But I love this. This is a real workhorse. This will sew through quite a lot, sometimes more than my John Lewis machine will. But I really love it. What I tend to do is I have them set up for different things. So I'll get this out if I'm sewing clothes, for example, and I need to use this rather than my Overlocker. That's my Overlocker over here. But again, it has this, pretty much the same basic stitches as this one does, just slightly different laid out. That's the reverse button, whereas that's the reverse button on here. So I really like that. I got it serviced. That's the great thing about older machines, is they do service quite nicely because they're metal, and you can oil them up neatly. This one is an Elna. 1960s, I think. I found it in a charity shop in Shipley, which is in West Yorkshire, not far from where I live. And my sister and a friend carried it back to my sister's house in Saltaire from the charity shop, so it's not a short walk. But again, I tend to have this set up purely to do zigzags. Especially if I'm going to be sewing clothes again, and I need to use the zigzag. This one is slightly different in that it has a top loading bobbin, so it's a bit different to me, but this weighs a ton, and this again is another great workhorse. I actually found some sewing instructions. Somebody I discovered on Instagram had the instructions, and she very kindly photocopied them for me and sent them on to me. So again, I think second-hand machines can be a real joy. There's something nice about knowing that it's been around for a long time, especially if you can get an older brand. This one's actually Elnat. They're made in Switzerland, and they are really good quality machines. So I think that cost me 40, and it cost me 40 to get it serviced. Love it. Okay, and the other one that I use a lot is my Brother Overlocker. Now, I bought this a couple of years ago because I started getting into sewing clothes for the children and also for myself. I know a lot of people are scared of overlockers. I found that the more I used it, the more I got used to it and its quirks. This one I managed to get on a really cheap deal through Amazon. I think in the end it went from 199 to 129, so they're worth looking out for. This is a basic Brother. Brother's a good brand. It came sort of semi-threaded, and I know lots of people would tell me don't rethread them, but when I tied the threads on from my new spools, they all came undone, so I had no choice. So I actually took that as an opportunity to learn how to thread it and rethread it and rethread it. And actually one of the tension discs on this is a little sticky and pops out, so I do have to rethread it now and again, and I think it's always worthwhile. I absolutely love my Overlocker. It makes sewing clothes such a breeze, and I definitely wouldn't go back to sewing clothes on an ordinary sewing machine. You can, but I prefer the finish on those that you get from an Overlocker. I don't know if anybody's interested in knowing a bit more about an Overlocker, or you'd like a video on an Overlocker, sewing some things on an Overlocker, but absolutely love them. The only thing is, if you do make a mistake, it can be a bit of a nightmare to unpick because all the threads is in a lovely chain. So there are my 4 main sewing machines. And if you have any questions about sewing machines, I love sewing machines. I'm desperately on the lookout for a Singer treadle machine, or an old Singer like I had before, which was an electric, but it was beautiful. They're working out quite expensive at the moment, even second hand, but you never know. But yeah, my recommendation would be, if you're looking for a sewing machine, is to do some research. Think about what it is that you actually want to do. If all you want to do is go forwards and backwards and use a zigzag, you could do worse than buying a fairly basic machine like the John Lewis. I think it's based on a Genome, which is, out of curiosity, is where the new home machines, that's what they are now, Genome. New home turned into Genome. And think about what it is that you're sewing, and then make a decision. Yeah, because what you don't want to do is spend a lot of money on something and then never use it. I know a lot of people who bought an Overlocker, they haven't got it out of the box in 2 years. That's the issue, because it actually took me 2 years to get this out of the box and start using it properly. So I just think that if you're new to sewing, you could do worse than buying a second-hand machine, getting it refurbished, or buying a basic machine like the John Lewis. Okay, that's all I have to say. If you've got any questions at all, pop me a message into the comments. Okay, thank you very much for watching. Bye.